Charlotte Morrison spent the first 7 years of her life asking the same question: when is my mommy coming? And the nurses at Sunshine Care Facility in Los Angeles would look at each other with sad eyes and say, "Soon, sweetheart, soon." But soon never came. Charlotte had been born with cerebral palsy, a condition that affected her movement and speech, but not her mind. She understood everything. She knew that other children at the facility had parents who visited. She knew that birthdays meant cake and presents for kids whose families came. She knew that Christmas meant going home for kids whose parents wanted them. But Charlotte's birthday meant another year alone. Christmas meant watching other children leave while she stayed behind. 7 years of wondering what she'd done wrong. 7 years of believing she was broken, unlovable, not worth keeping. The facility tried their best. They gave her physical therapy, speech therapy. They celebrated her small victories. But nothing could fill the emptiness of knowing that somewhere out there she had a family who had chosen to forget she existed. Charlotte's room was covered in Michael Jackson posters. His music was the only thing that made her feel less alone. When she listened to "You Are Not Alone," she would close her eyes and pretend he was singing directly to her, telling her that somebody somewhere cared. She never imagined that one day Michael Jackson would walk into Sunshine Care Facility and ask to meet her. She never imagined he would listen to her story with tears in his eyes and say, "This isn't right. This isn't fair. And I'm going to make sure the whole world knows what happened to you." She never imagined that 3 weeks later, she would be on stage at the LA Forum in front of 70,000 people, finally meeting the family who had abandoned her, finally seeing the identical twin sister she never knew existed, finally understanding that she wasn't broken. Her family was. This is Charlotte's story. The story of a little girl who was thrown away because she wasn't perfect. And the story of how Michael Jackson refused to let the world look away. March 12, 1985, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Los Angeles. Sarah Morrison had been in labor for 14 hours when the doctors finally told her she was having twins. Not one baby, two. David Morrison, her husband, was thrilled. Twins! Sarah, we're having twins! But the delivery was complicated. The first baby, a girl they would name Sophie, came out healthy, crying loudly, perfect in every way. The second baby, another girl, came out silent. The medical team worked quickly, efficiently. When she finally cried, it was weak, different. Within hours, the doctors had a diagnosis: cerebral palsy. The second twin had experienced oxygen deprivation during the difficult birth. The damage was permanent. She'll have mobility issues, the neurologist explained to David and Sarah. Speech difficulties. She'll need extensive therapy. Physical occupational speech. It's a lifelong condition. Sarah was crying. But she'll be okay. She can still have a good life. With proper support and love, absolutely. Many people with cerebral palsy live full, meaningful lives. David didn't say anything. He just stared at the two babies in the hospital nursery, one moving normally, one whose movements were stiff and uncoordinated. That night, while Sarah slept, David made a decision. He found the hospital social worker and said, "We can't take both babies home. We can't handle a disabled child. What are our options?" The social worker was shocked. "Mr. Morrison, she's your daughter. What are our options?" Reluctantly, the social worker explained that there were specialized care facilities for children with significant medical needs, places where trained professionals could provide appropriate care. David requested information about every facility in the Los Angeles area. By morning, he'd made arrangements with Sunshine Care Facility. When Sarah woke up, David presented it as the only reasonable choice. "We can't handle this. We have one healthy baby. That's what we focus on. The other one will get better care at a professional facility," Sarah cried. She begged. She said they couldn't abandon their own child, but David was immovable. He was the breadwinner. He made the decisions, and his decision was final. 3 days later, they took Sophie home to their beautiful house in Beverly Hills. They left Charlotte at Sunshine Care Facility with a signed agreement that the facility would have full, A custody. They told their family and friends they'd lost one twin during delivery. Everyone sent condolences. No one questioned the story, and Charlotte Morrison began her life alone. At Sunshine Care Facility, Charlotte grew up surrounded by nurses and therapists, but no family. She received excellent medical care. Physical therapy 3 times a week, speech therapy twice a week, occupational therapy to help her develop fine motor skills. The facility staff loved her. She was smart, observant, and despite everything, hopeful. She learned to communicate, though her speech was sometimes difficult to understand. She learned to move around in her wheelchair with remarkable skill. But every night, Charlotte would ask the same question. "When is my mommy coming?" The nurses didn't know what to say. Charlotte's file indicated no family contact, no visits scheduled, no phone calls, nothing. By age 4, Charlotte understood that other children had parents who visited. She would watch from her window as families arrived on Sundays, bringing toys and treats, taking their children to the facility's playground. Charlotte would press her face against the glass and wonder why her family never came. "Maybe they're busy," she told herself. "Maybe they live far away. Maybe they're coming next week," but next week never came. Neither did the week after that, or the month after that. By age 5, Charlotte stopped asking when her mommy was coming. She'd figured it out. Her family wasn't coming because they didn't want her. The realization broke something inside her. She stopped talking as much, stopped smiling as easily. The therapists noticed the change, but couldn't fix what was broken in her heart. That's when Charlotte discovered Michael Jackson. One of the nurses, Jennifer, noticed Charlotte's depression and brought in a small portable CD player and some Michael Jackson albums. "Maybe music will help," Jennifer said. She was right. When Charlotte heard Michael's voice singing, "You Are Not Alone," something shifted. She felt seen, understood. The lyrics spoke directly to her loneliness. Charlotte listened to that song every single night. And slowly, she started putting up posters in her room. Michael Jackson became her family, the only constant presence in her life. By age 7, Charlotte's room was a shrine to Michael Jackson. She knew every song, every dance move, even though she couldn't perform them herself. Every lyric. "When I grow up," Charlotte told Jennifer, "I'm going to meet Michael Jackson and thank him for keeping me company." Jennifer smiled sadly. "Maybe you will, sweetie. Maybe you will." Meanwhile, 7 miles away in Beverly Hills, Sophie Morrison was growing up with everything Charlotte didn't have. A beautiful bedroom, loving parents, birthday parties with cake and presents, Christmas mornings with a tree and gifts, dance classes, piano lessons, private school. Sophie was a happy child. Her parents adored her. She had no idea she'd been born a twin. No idea that somewhere in Los Angeles, an identical sister was spending every birthday alone. David and Sarah Morrison had almost convinced themselves they'd made the right choice. Sophie was thriving. Their family was happy. Charlotte was receiving professional care. Everyone was better off, except Charlotte. March 1992. Michael Jackson was in Los Angeles planning his History World Tour. Between rehearsals, he made time for something he considered equally important: visiting children in hospitals and care facilities. His manager arranged a visit to Sunshine Care Facility. Michael wanted to meet the children, bring them joy, remind them they weren't forgotten. When he arrived, the entire facility was buzzing with excitement. Children who could walk lined the hallways. Those in wheelchairs positioned themselves for the best view. Michael went room to room, spending time with each child, signing autographs, taking photos, listening to their stories. When he reached Charlotte's room, he saw the posters immediately. Every wall covered with his face. "Wow," Michael said, stepping inside. "I think I have a fan." Charlotte was sitting in her wheelchair, staring at him with wide, disbelieving eyes. You're real." Michael knelt beside her wheelchair, bringing himself to her eye level. "I'm real. And you must be Charlotte. The nurses told me about you." Charlotte's speech was slightly slurred but understandable. You're my favorite. You're my family." Michael's expression softened. "Your family? I don't have a real family. So you're my family. Your music. It keeps me company. Michael looked around the room. Noticed there were no family photos, no personal items from home, just his posters and a few stuffed animals. Charlotte, where is your family? She looked down at her hands. They didn't want me. Because I'm broken. You're not broken, Charlotte. Yes, I am. That's why they left me here when I was a baby. The nurses told me I have cerebral palsy. That's why I can't walk right or talk right. That's why nobody wants me. Michael felt rage building in his chest. Not at Charlotte. At whoever had abandoned this beautiful, intelligent child. Who told you nobody wants you? Nobody had to tell me. I just know. All the other kids have parents who visit. I don't. So it must be because I'm broken. Michael stayed with Charlotte for over an hour. They talked about music, about her favorite songs, about her dreams. What do you wish for, Charlotte? If you could have anything, Charlotte thought carefully. I wish my family would come see me, just once, so I could ask them why they left me, and so I could tell them I'm sorry for being broken. Michael's heart shattered. Charlotte, listen to me. You are not broken. You are perfect exactly as you are. And if your family can't see that, then they're the ones who are broken, not you. Before he left, Michael spoke with the facility director, Mrs. Patterson. Tell me about Charlotte's family. Mrs. Patterson pulled Charlotte's file. It's unusual. Parents signed over full custody when she was 3 days old. We have an address in Beverly Hills, the Morrison family. But in 7 years, they've never visited, never called, never sent anything. Do they have other children? Mrs. Patterson checked the records. According to the birth certificate, Charlotte was a twin. There was another girl born the same day. Michael's jaw clenched. They kept one twin and gave away the other. It appears so, because Charlotte has cerebral palsy. That would be my assumption. Michael stood, his decision made. I want their full contact information, address, phone number, everything you have. Mr. Jackson, I'm not sure I can. Mrs. Patterson, I'm not asking. That little girl has spent 7 years thinking she's broken and unlovable because her family abandoned her. I'm going to make sure they face what they've done. Mrs. Patterson looked at the determination in Michael's eyes and handed over the file. 2 days later, an envelope arrived at the Morrison home in Beverly Hills. Inside were 2 VIP tickets to Michael Jackson's History World Tour concert at the LA Forum, with a handwritten note. I'd love to meet Sophie and her family. MJ, Sophie screamed with excitement. Dad, Mom! Michael Jackson wants to meet us. David Morrison grinned. This was incredible. His daughter would meet the king of pop. Sarah Morrison felt a cold shiver of dread. Something about this felt wrong, but she didn't say anything. She'd spent 7 years staying quiet. Why start now? March 23rd, 1992, the day of the concert. Charlotte sat in the facility's common room, watching the staff prepare. Michael had arranged for the concert to be broadcast on the facility's television so the children could watch. Charlotte, Jennifer said gently, Michael wanted you to have this. She handed Charlotte a beautiful new dress. He's sending a car for you. You're going to the concert. Charlotte couldn't believe it. I'm going to see Michael in person? You're not just going to see him, sweetie. He wants you on stage with him. That evening, as 70,000 fans packed into the LA Forum, Charlotte sat backstage in her wheelchair, heart pounding, wearing her new dress, hardly believing this was real. In the VIP section, the Morrison family took their seats. Sophie bounced excitedly. David waved to acquaintances. Sarah felt increasingly anxious. The concert began. Michael performed hit after hit. The crowd was ecstatic. Then, during Heal the World, Michael stopped singing. The music faded. 70,000 people fell silent, confused. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael said into his microphone, tonight is special. Because tonight, I want to tell you a story about 2 little girls. Backstage, staff members began wheeling Charlotte toward the stage. 7 years ago, twin girls were born in Los Angeles. Identical twins, same face, same DNA, born minutes apart. But only one went home with her family. In the VIP section, Sarah Morrison's blood ran cold. David Morrison tried to stand, but security had already positioned themselves at the exits. The other twin was left at a care facility, not because she was sick, Not because she was dying, but because she had cerebral palsy. Because she wasn't perfect enough for her family to keep. Michael's voice carried anger and pain. The audience was silent, horrified. That little girl has spent 7 years alone. 7 years wondering what she did wrong. 7 years thinking she's broken and unlovable. Her name is Charlotte Morrison, and she's here tonight. Charlotte's wheelchair came into view. The spotlight hit her. 70,000 people saw her face. The cameras broadcasting live caught every detail, and Sophie Morrison, sitting in the VIP section, saw a girl who looked exactly like her. "Charlotte," Michael said gently, kneeling beside her wheelchair on stage, "there's someone here tonight I want you to meet. Your family, the family that abandoned you 7 years ago. They're sitting right there." The cameras swung to the VIP section, to the Morrison family. Sarah was crying. David was pale. Sophie was staring at Charlotte with confusion and growing understanding. "That girl in the VIP section," Michael continued, "is Sophie Morrison, your twin sister. The sister your parents kept. The sister who got the family, the home, the love. While you got nothing." Sophie stood without thinking, staring at Charlotte. Seeing her own face staring back, Michael gestured to security. "Bring Sophie to the stage." Security escorted Sophie down. She walked like she was in a dream, climbed the stairs, stood facing Charlotte, two identical 7-year-old girls. One in an expensive dress from a boutique, one in a donated dress from a care facility, one who'd been loved her whole life, one who'd been abandoned from birth. "Hi," Sophie whispered. "Hi," Charlotte whispered back, and then Sophie did something her parents never had. She hugged her sister tightly and started crying. "I didn't know," Sophie sobbed. "I didn't know you existed. I didn't know I had a sister," Charlotte hugged back, tears streaming down her face. I always knew someone was missing." Michael turned to the audience. "The Morrison family is here tonight. David and Sarah Morrison. They've spent 7 years pretending Charlotte doesn't exist. They told everyone they lost a twin during birth. They lied, and they abandoned their disabled daughter because she wasn't convenient enough to keep." The crowd's reaction was immediate. Boos, shouts, anger. 70,000 people unified in their disgust. Michael looked directly at the cameras. "This is being broadcast live to millions of people. Everyone watching now knows what the Morrison family did. Everyone knows they threw away a child because she had cerebral palsy. And I want everyone to remember their names. David Morrison, Sarah Morrison, because people who abandon their disabled children should be held accountable." Sarah was sobbing openly. David was trying to leave, but security blocked them. Sophie and Charlotte were still hugging on stage, unwilling to let go. Michael knelt between them. "Charlotte, would you like to sing with me?" Charlotte nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Michael and Charlotte sang "You Are Not Alone" together. Charlotte's voice was imperfect, slurred by her cerebral palsy, but it was beautiful, real, full of 7 years of loneliness finding release. By the end, there wasn't a dry eye in the LA Forum. 70,000 people were crying. Millions watching at home were crying. Even Michael's band was crying. When the song ended, Michael addressed the Morrison family directly. "You have a choice. You can continue being the people who abandoned their disabled daughter, or you can be the people who brought her home. The whole world is watching. What will you choose?" The next morning, the Morrison family arrived at Sunshine Care Facility. David was somber. Sarah was still crying. Sophie was holding Charlotte's hand, refusing to let go. "We're taking Charlotte home," David said quietly to Mrs. Patterson. "We're bringing our daughter home." The media circus lasted for months. The Morrison family was vilified in newspapers and on television. David lost business clients. Their neighbors ostracized them, but they'd made their choice. They brought Charlotte home. It wasn't easy. Sophie adjusted quickly, thrilled to have a sister. Sarah poured all her guilt into making amends. David struggled the most, facing what he'd done, trying to earn Charlotte's forgiveness. Charlotte struggled too. 7 years of abandonment couldn't be healed overnight. But slowly, she began to believe what Michael had told her. She wasn't broken. Her family had been broken. But maybe, just maybe, they were starting to heal. Today, Charlotte and Sophie Morrison are 39 years old. They're inseparable. They run a non-profit organization that advocates for children with disabilities and fights against discrimination. Michael didn't just reunite us, Charlotte says. He taught the world that disabled children are worth keeping, that we deserve love, that we're not broken. Sophie adds, and he taught my parents, taught everyone watching that night, that abandoning a disabled child isn't a private family decision. It's a public moral failing, and it should be treated as such. In their office, they keep a photo from that night at the LA Forum. 2 7-year-old identical twins hugging each other for the first time, crying tears of joy and grief. And Michael Jackson kneeling between them, his hand on each of their shoulders, making sure the whole world was watching. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't just help someone in private. Sometimes it's making sure their story is told, their pain is witnessed, and the people who hurt them are held accountable. Michael Jackson gave Charlotte Morrison her sister back. But more than that, he gave her something she'd never had, proof that she mattered, that she was worth fighting for, that she deserved to be seen, and 70,000 people and millions more watching at home learned that night that disability doesn't make someone less valuable. It just makes their abandonment more unforgivable.